Welcome to the Student Success Stories podcast, the podcast where we spotlight academic success at Baylor University. In today's episode, we're joined by Sally Lee, where we continue our series on learning in a pandemic setting. We talk about how the pandemic has changed us as students and as people. Sally also tells us how she holds herself accountable in online classes. Stay tuned for this and much more. Welcome to the Student Success Stories podcast. Today we're here with Sally. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your major and all that?
Sure. I am a junior psychology major with a minor in child and family studies. I'm really involved in the psychology and neuroscience department at Baylor. I'm a student ambassador. I'm vice president of Psychi, and I helped start a new initiative this semester. It's called the Learn Diversity and Inclusion Initiative in our department. So I'm really passionate about psychology and being involved with students and things like that.
That's so cool. You are involved in so many cool things. What made you choose Baylor?
Um, I'm an international student, and I was just looking for Christian schools that provided a lot of scholarships. And in addition to that, I really love that Baylor really emphasized research. I'm involved in two different research labs, and I really wanted to get involved. And I knew that Baylor had amazing professors who did really cool research. So
Mhm.
that's why I chose Baylor.
Yeah, I have some friends in that department too, and they really like it. It seems really legit. So I'm glad you're having a good time with it. So what did you say you are a junior this year?
Mhm.
Junior, yeah. And are you taking mainly online courses this semester?
Yes, I'm taking two or three online classes. I only have one in-person class.
Was that by design or was it kind of just how it happened to be with the classes you needed to take?
It was kind of, it just kind of happened like that. Um, but I think I also really enjoy aspects of online learning. So yeah, kind of both.
Okay, I feel you. Same thing with my classes. It was mostly like just what was available, what I was able to get into. Um, what have been like the most surprising challenges about online learning?
I think, especially with the asynchronous classes, I like at first I was having trouble like knowing when to do what and kind of like having free reign on, when do I watch the lectures and when do I take the quizzes. And so at first it was a bit of an adjustment not having like firm like class times or due dates. And so sometimes I'd like, do class in bed or, not really be in the mindset or the mood
Mm,
to really focus on the material. So I think that was a surprising challenge at first.
yeah, I feel like that would be the biggest challenge for me as well with online learning, especially when I'm in the same situation as you, whereas I have like one or two in-person classes, and those are like normal. That's what I'm used to, but the others are kind of like up in the air. Is there anything you wish you knew about online learning before you started?
Um, I think I would have liked to know, kind of going off of kind of what I struggled with at first, that it's really important to still take your classes seriously and maybe like actually go somewhere else to do those classes rather than in your room, in your bedroom, like in bed or just kind of off to the side. Just taking those classes seriously and maybe like, going to a coffee shop or the library or somewhere else where you can actually focus on the course material, even if
Mhm.
it's not the classroom. I think that would have been really helpful for me to know.
Like, where do you like to study?
I really like studying in Jones. I like that it's really quiet there and there aren't a lot of distractions when I'm doing like work that I really need to concentrate on. But I also really enjoy studying um, at the garden level of Moody or the Starbucks area where there's still a little bit of noise. sometimes that can kind of help me concentrate better too.
Yeah, Jones is so underrated. Most of the time, it's pretty empty and it's extremely quiet. So definitely recommend that. Is there anything that helps you stay motivated for your online courses, like we were talking about, where it's harder to be held accountable by your professors?
Hmm. Um, I would say what I do is I set small goals for myself. Um, Sometimes that's just, on Monday I'll watch the lecture, on Tuesday I'll do the discussion board post, or writing down a solid schedule, and setting small goals, and then also setting like small rewards that I can get afterwards, whether that's a coffee or um, 30 minutes of screen time or hanging out with friends. I think just that sense of satisfaction of like, oh, I achieved my goal today, and I can go and do something that I like doing afterwards. That's really helped motivate me, I think.
I think that's definitely solid advice. That works a lot of the time. Is there anything that helps you stay connected to peers and professors, especially with online classes where that might make that difficult?
Yeah, I think at first I was really shy to email my professors, and it took a lot of courage for me to reach out when I had a question or something. But now that I'm a junior and I've done that a little bit more, I've realized that your professors really want you to succeed, and they really want to help you. And then afterwards, I've gotten more used to emailing my professors when I have a question and going to their office hours. And I think that's really important, is to like be proactive about communicating with your professors, especially with online learning when they're not in the classroom, where you don't really get to see them face to face or have meetings with them frequently. I think taking advantage of those office hours or even those online class times to ask those questions, even if it might be awkward or a little scary at first, I think once you overcome that, it's been really helpful for me.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. If you could give one piece of advice to students taking online courses this semester or just learning during the pandemic in general, what would it be?
I think it really depends on um, knowing yourself and knowing like what works best for you. Because I know for me, that looks like having a planner and scheduling everything I want to do for the week. I also have friends who I know who scheduling doesn't work. Like it's kind of like, oh, I feel like I want to do this, and in that moment they are like really productive and they don't really follow a set schedule. And I think it really depends on how your brain works and how you like to work, and also just making sure you have fun with what you're learning, finding different aspects of what you're learning, and I guess growing that passion kind of um, can be really helpful.
Yeah, I know what some other people who've been on this podcast said is that they like to think about like the bigger picture and they like to think about themselves and their career in the future and how all of these classes, there's an ultimate goal to things and it you can lose sight of that sometimes because it feels so far in the future, but it's there. Do you feel like you spend about the same amount of time on your in-person classes as your online, or is there a difference maybe?
I think with the classes I'm taking this semester, online classes have taken a little more time than actual classes, because I'm in like a little bit of harder classes. And I think those take me a lot more time and effort to kind of like think through them, because I also have to watch the class lectures and then um, do the assignments and also study. And so I think for some of my classes they've taken more time than my actual in-person classes.
Mm. And then this is one of the last questions we got here, but something I've started to ask our guests is, do you have any like instances of success or failure that you learned from during learning with this pandemic? Just any stories in general that come to mind?
Yeah, I think at first, like with the pandemic going on, um, it's taken me like a lot more personal motivation to do school and I guess like think about school, like you said, like seeing the big picture of where this fits in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
It's been so easy to kind of like lose focus and feel like, why does school matter? You know, like why does this matter when like a
Mhm.
pandemic is going on? Um, and also just like being lazy and not really wanting to study for exams and not taking things seriously because of the shift. But I think through that initial experience, now that we've been online for a while, now that the pandemic has gone on for about a year, I think I've learned from that, and I actually think I've increased a lot of my like internal personal motivation to do a lot of things. That it's not for the grade, it's not even necessarily for my career, but it's also just for enjoying what I'm learning in the moment and drawing from those sources of motivation. I think that's one way that I've grown through this whole process.
Yeah, one thing I can say about the pandemic is that it's really, like, taught me a lot about myself and how I deal, like, new or difficult situations, and just college in general. Like, you learn a lot about who you are as a person. So, I mean, it's been crazy to see, like, how much you can really, like, deal with and overcome. So, I mean, it's been a crazy learning experience. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us or that you think the people should know? Anything you want to promote?
um, I guess I would just say, like, you know the pandemic has really put a kink on all of our plans and all of our goals. And especially as undergraduates, like we all expected so much from our college experience. But I would just say, like, don't let that get to you, like, don't let that change your goals, your plans for your future. And, like, have fun, definitely stay safe and all of the precautions, but still find ways to have fun in the midst of everything. And um, yeah, don't let the pandemic kind of um, prevent you from any of what you wanted to do um, in college.
Yeah, yeah, that's great advice. I would definitely agree with that. Well, thank you, Sally, for being with us on the podcast today. It's been a great time. Thank you, and stick 'em Bears. Thank you for tuning in to the Student Success Stories podcast. You can listen to our previous episodes on iTunes, or you can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Student Success Stories. Would you like to be featured on the podcast? DM us on Instagram. Thank you for listening, and stick 'em Bears.